How to make a techno less repetitive. There is a bit of a paradox here, as techno must be repetitive. I mean, I like it to be very repetitive. So let's say more how to make a techno feels less repetitive. There is a big nuance here, and we're gonna see today how you can achieve that. Polymeters. There is at least two reasons why polymeters works well with techno, but first, what is polymeters? To oversimplify, polymeter is when you have two different elements of your track having different pattern lengths, and this pattern length number must share a different multiple. Let's see in Ableton what I mean. So we're gonna take the case first where we don't do polymeter. So you will have your kick, for example, which is doing 2 bar, your bass is doing 2 bar, your lead will be 4 bar, and you will have a pad which is doing 8 bar. Now, what's happening? They are all like a multiple of 2, so they will all restart kind of in the same time after 8 bar. If you duplicate your kick, you see you have 4 times 2 bar, 4 times 2 bar with the bass, and 2 times 4 bar with the lead. So then what's happening, if you keep duplicating, you can see that they all start together from 0 after 8 bar. And having everything restarting every 8 bar from 0 is gonna feel very repetitive. So it works in certain music genre, it can work for techno as well, but you're gonna see how interesting it is to do polymeter. Now let's do the same example but with polymeter. So the kick is still gonna be 2 bar, but let's say you put your bass to be 3 bar and your lead to be 5 bar, and we're gonna keep the pad at 8. So basically the kick and the pad, they still like will kind of restart in the same time, but for example with the bass, what's gonna happen is that it doesn't restart after 8 bar in the same time. So to have all elements restarting together in the same time, you kind of have to wait. You can see here 24 bar, but you can see here we didn't put the lead. So if we put the lead and duplicate, you can see that it doesn't all end in the same time. So again, if you want to have all the elements restarting in the same time, you will kind of struggle. You can see even here it doesn't work, so I still need to duplicate until I have that, and you can see that it can take a very long time until you have all of them restarting together. Even after 80 bar here, I still don't have it. So why is this great? So if you look into it a little bit closer, you can see like first time the lead start, they start in the same time. Second time, the lead is gonna start again from 0. You're gonna be kind of at the end of the bass line. And then the third time, you're gonna be kind of the beginning of the bass line. The fourth time, you're gonna start again exactly on the bass line. So this could mean, for example, if the bass line have different notes, you will kind of generate different harmony. It can be also different kind of rhythm according to when are the notes of your bass line and your lead. And this is gonna kind of trick your brain. And this is very great for techno because usually you have very short pattern. So instead of having 2 short patterns that really repeat synchronized in the same time, or the beginning and the end really are synced, here you will have like kind of the beginning and the end and the middle of each pattern overlapping over time at a different position to feel a little bit less repetitive. Now that was the first reason. The second reason, so for example, if we look at this bass pattern, we're gonna make it 1 beat and a 16. So basically if I put with the kick together, you're gonna understand better how it works. So we have our kick in gray here, and we have our bass line here in blue, and you can see it starts with F1, F sharp, C, F, G, and then start again with F1 here. Now you can see the first time the bass line start, it's playing on the same time than the kick. Now the second time it starts again, you can see it's playing right after the kick. Up the third time it's playing right in between 2 kicks. So the position of your bass line is kind of shifting compared to the kick. And this obviously is gonna impact the rhythm, but it's gonna kind of impact the feeling as well. If you play these 2 elements together, you're gonna hear what I mean. I'm gonna play like a classic 1 beat pattern, so it will be exactly synced to the kick all the time. The kick will always play there. It really feels less repetitive because the beginning of the bass line is not starting all the time on a kick. So you have this always shifting effect, which makes it less repetitive. As usual with any advice, it doesn't mean like you always have to do polymeter, that it will always work. Sometimes if you don't use polymeter, you can still get this hypnotic effect. Sorry to interrupt the video, but just a quick word to let you know that I have now a Patreon page where you can get project files from the video, my Audioreakt library, and other exclusive content. You can find out more on my Patreon page, link in the description. Now back to the video. Alright, we talk about pattern, but one important thing as well you can do to make it feel less repetitive is to play with the tone of your sound. So I'm not talking about like your classic cutoff and decay or other parameter you will modulate to add some rhythm or to add a bit of variation during your track. You can do that, but I'm more thinking about very subtle change into your tone sound, like slightly changing the character on a very small amount over a very long period of time. And the idea is, again, to kind of trick your brain, is to make feel like you can hear the sound is changing somehow, but you cannot really point out what is happening or how it's changing. And this is very tricky to do. So now there is a lot of possibility. I'm just gonna give you a few ones that I like to do. The first thing is always thinking about starting with the source, so your oscillator. Now most of modern synth or VST, you usually have an oscillator and you sometimes have parameter kind of to shape the oscillator. For example, with the wavetable, you can add some kind of FM, you can have some sync per Swiss, which will alter the sound. So this is something that can be modulated. For example, in drift, you have the shape here. If you take meld, for example, you will have the macro of the oscillator amount feedback. Now, the best things to use to modulate this parameter is usually a LFO, because you can really set it slowly. Usually the sine waves work well, or the triangle, because you will have this slow up and down movement. Now, the great thing is there is also plenty of effect that can achieve you to kind of modulate slowly your sound. You have one of the most common in hypnotic techno. Techno is like the phase of flanger, because it's kind of a filtering effect that slowly happen over time, and here again you will find like LFO to modulate. You can hear this kind of filter sweeping kind of style of effect. So this is great because you can hear something is happening, but it doesn't change the tone of your sound too much. You have your classic chorus as well. Can be used for stereo, but sometimes it can be used as well for slow modulation, because again you have LFO that slowly modulate the sound. You can use the pitch that kind of emulate this tape effect. You see if I slow amount. Now you have everything which is about filter or EQ. So for example, in Ableton you can use the auto filter. I like to use the comb filter, which again creating this kind of weird filter effect. And that's one of the great things with live. A lot of effects, they have integrated LFO, so you can straight up modulate. This is pretty easy. You don't need to load an LFO. Sometimes effect doesn't have, but you can still do it. For example, with its EQ, what I like to do is use the LFO to have this EQ here, like this bell EQ kind of sweeping, and it creates this sweeping effect again. If I accentuate the effect. So here I accentuate a little bit more, but yeah, you get the idea. I made a video last year with 3 filters that are very great for hypnotic techno. I put it in the description. Then other idea I can give you is to use kind of effect like a radius or erosion, which is gonna add a bit of grit. And again, you can modulate this. Here I use a shaper to have something different, but you can use LFO and it will add this grit on top. So then it's really up to you if you like, but this is just an idea I could give you. And like I said, some of the effects, they have also LFO, like for example, delay, where you can modulate the filter or the pitch. These are usually more subtle, but yeah, it's good to know. We also have autopan, which is great. I like to use it to kind of make the sound a little bit goes around your head. This is pretty nice. See how you stay more in the middle, and then you go left, right. Pretty cool. Now, like with everything, I always recommend to don't overdo it. Like maybe here is too many in the same time, but was just to show you the different possibility. Another tip I can give you that it's really great is actually to use polymeter as well with your LFO rate, because basically the rate of your LFO have a length, and obviously if each element that you are modulating with the LFO have a different rate, it will also create kind of extra layer of polymeter into your modulation. So yeah, that's something to think about it as well. Alright, hope that inspires you. It's time to make some hypnotic techno, and see you next time. Bye bye.